So I'm back here. Last video we went through the first, was it 1 through 4, first through fourth round in the fantasy football draft. I didn't really go through details on it. It's a PPR 1 point. It's a keeper league as well, so it's something that I probably should have factored in on some of the decisions, like in the fourth round. And then there's also a IDP slot, so all these little white boxes you see here are most likely defensive players, and of course I didn't take a good picture. I probably wouldn't get too far. I'm probably just going to do this like last 4 slots or so, because then after that it kind of becomes a crapshoot, and I'll talk about maybe my team after that point. But I think that'll be the last video I make on this. So let's see, we were at end of the fourth, and it comes all the way back over here. I think we stopped off at Russell Wilson. So after that, so we got Alfred Morris, which I like that as a pick. I was thinking about picking him up on the snake on mine. Just super dependent. It doesn't catch a lot of balls, but get 1,000 yards. You get 6 to 8 touchdowns somewhere in there. Next pick here is Shane Vereen. I really like that pick. That was one that on the Fantasy Pros, he was gonna drop down to like the 6th. So if he would have came back around, I would have swooped him up. I really like him in that offense. They throw a lot, and I'm not a big fan of Rashad Jennings, so I think he'll be hurt before you know it. Latavius Murray's a solid pickup. He's definitely the running back one there, and Raiders' offense is looking like, dare I say it, it's going to get a little bit better. And then let's see who's this next one here. It's like Andre Johnson from the Colts. That's a good pickup. You don't really know how the distribution is going to work, but he's definitely, him and Ty are probably the two best targets to have there. Next one is Drew Brees. It's perfectly fine, a little early for. It's actually right about maybe like a round or two off where I usually get quarterbacks. Brees, they always throw a lot. They throw a lot to the running backs, so I think he'll still be solid. Andre Coleman is a hot waiver wire pickup, so there's a lot of hype around that, so I think they'll be just fine. This 5th round pick I talked about in the last video is pretty questionable. Kendall Wright, you probably could have got him, in like the 8th, 9th round. So I think that was a questionable pick at best. Ben Roethlisberger is real solid. That Steelers offense is, top 3, top 5, somewhere in there as far as most efficient. You got Antonio Brown, you got Le'Veon Bell. I think that's a great pick. Keenan Allen is one that I was going to, if I didn't already pick up 3 receivers, he was pretty high on my list here, because I think that he got the targets last year. He just kind of had a down year, but he has the potential to be a wide receiver one with Gates out, for 4 weeks as well. So I think he's solid. Jork Bell, I'm kind of wishy-washy about, just because he's gone through the 2 surgeries, Achilles and I think a knee, and he's got Abdullah on his back, so not too sure. I know that they can support 2 running backs and have like efficient like top 20 like they did with Reggie Bush and Joique Bell, but I'm just a little weary on that one, so I probably would back off on that a little bit. Mike Wallace, he's another one. I think that offense is going to go like right through AP, so I'm not real big on him. Next one is Mari Cooper. I think, especially since this is a keeper league, which I finally told you guys this video, I think that's real solid. I think he'll put up good numbers, because Raiders are, they're slowly getting better, but they're usually trailing, which means that garbage time, and he's a physical specimen, so that should be good. Then comes back around Travis Kelce. I was real big on him last year. Probably, this is the one that I've been getting on just about every draft that I get, 4th, 5th round. I think he's going to do a lot of good things, continue what he did last year. Cam Newton, this one and the Spiller pick were the 2 that, when I think back to the draft, I have a pretty big question mark about, like I wasn't really feeling the running backs left. Like Gurley's going to be out for a while. If you wrap around, it goes Yeldon, then it goes Jennings, which I already talked about. Duke Johnson is a rookie, looks good, but There's a lot of running backs in Cleveland, so I was thinking just to kind of shore up my lineup, my starting lineup, um, to get a quarterback. But seeing how far Eli fell here, I definitely could have waited there and potentially I like Landry, Aguilar. Those two are real big on my sleeper list there, or not necessarily sleeper, but just people I was targeting. So yeah, that's the one that if I look back at this draft, I definitely blew it on that. So if I go back, so if we keep going here around, Gurley, um, like we talked about, it's a keeper league. He's going to do great next year. It's all about if you can withstand an early pick, and like hold out and plan out for next year. With the way his team's shaken out, it's I probably would have gone for something more consistent. Like there's some wide receivers up here that are very good keeper league. Like Aguilar potentially, and Landry is pretty solid. I don't necessarily dislike the pick, but based off of where his team was, I think that was a little questionable. Matt Ryan's solid. He looks like they did pretty much the same thing I did. Just trying to shore up their starting lineup. They could have waited though. Martellus Bennett, solid pick. As soon as Kelsey and I probably would have picked up Olsen before that because I think Olsen will have a better year. Well, especially now knowing the Benjamin. But I think I have him ranked a little higher. Jarvis Landry is real solid. This guy is just he's got a really good draft going. Aguilar, this was the guy that Danny drafted just young guys over and over. Victor Cruz is kind of one of those gambles. PCL injury is a pretty big one when it comes to knee surgeries. So, and they got Odell Beckham. So, best case scenario, you're looking at like a wide receiver 2. So, I mean, you pick Kendall Wright, so he knows something I don't. So, Brandon Marshall's a really solid pick on the next one. I really like him. I think he gets a bump up with Fitzpatrick there. Martavis Bryant looked really solid for those handful of games last year, preseason too. I think he's good. TJ Yeldon, he's a starting running back, so it's a good pick at that point of what's left on all the running backs. I don't think Jaguars are necessarily the greatest offense, but still he's a starting running back, so I understand. Olsen I talked about, I really liked. Now he has even higher upside with Benjamin gone for the year. And then we have Deshaun Jackson. And Djax is, that boomer bust type of guy. Redskins quarterbacks are kind of, iffy, real hot and cold, so I don't necessarily care for that pick. Rashad Jennings, I think, is that Rashad Jennings? Yeah, I already talked about him. Didn't really care for him at all, Always gets hurt, really solid 3-down back, but just gets hurt all the time. Let's see, next one is John Brown. John Brown's real solid. He's kind of like the T.Y. Hilton, Bruce Arians move from the Colts to the Cardinals, and if Palmer stays healthy, I think John Brown will be solid. That's a real sleeper pick there. It could be value, we never know. Then we got Romo, which is solid QB. And then this one's Stafford, another good solid QB. Jeremy Maclin, not really sure how he's going to pan out. I think his upside's pretty low on the Chiefs, but I guess he's kind of in that range of where wide receivers are being taken. Julius Thomas broke his finger, kind of went to a downgraded offense, so that one I don't really care for. Devontae Adams seems like you could have got him a lot later. Even though this is a keeper league, he's the third wide receiver, so I'm not sure about that pick there. Anquan Bolden, solid pick, always consistent. He had some really good games last year. He's kind of, go get you like 10, 12 points, and then sometimes he'll break out, but he's pretty solid. Then it's Torrey Smith right after that. Arian Foster, I actually really like that pick. I probably would have gambled on him around the turn there, just because there's so much upside to. If I could have Arian Foster, that would pretty much get rid of my hole at running back here because I'm going to be running a lot of more RB2 running backs, and I would have had an RB1 there, so that would have been really nice. And I don't really remember who is in this spot here. This is the blank. I don't think it was IDP, but if I remember, I'll put a little YouTube note over it. Then comes around for my bend here is I got Geo and Danny Woodhead. I think they're both, like I said, like RB2s, third down backs. I think Woodhead actually has a lot more upside on that because Gordon's a rookie, looked a little shaky in the preseason game. So I think that he's going to return pretty good value in the eighth round there. And then same with Geo, Geo still, when he came back, he still put up some decent points here and there, so you can kind of plug him in. And if anything happens to Jeremy Hill, then you saw what he did last year before he got hurt, so he's real solid. Vincent Jackson I think that's a really good pick there in the eighth round, real good value, because everybody's just assuming that Mike Evans is going to be the guy, but there's a lot of him and Austin Ferry Jenkins. There's a lot of targets there, a lot of big targets. Dante Moncrief here, I really don't like that pick. It seems like you could have got him a lot later. Ty just signed a huge contract, and that was before the draft. Andre Johnson, got Dwayne Allen, Fleener. He's kind of like the, anywhere from the third to the fifth option, and then even Gore in there too. So I don't like that one at all. Monte Ball here, he must be gambling that Anderson's not going to run it out. Which if you're going to gamble in the eighth round, it's perfectly fine. Ryan Tannehill, solid pick there. That's probably I could have waited, and got Tannehill, got Manning, probably wouldn't have went for Brady, but I could have got one of those guys. And Rivers, who went way down here. LeGarrette Blount is a solid pickup. He as the year goes on, Blount always is the goal line back. He always has good games when it matters. Towards the end of like the fantasy playoffs when it gets cold in New England, so that's a good pickup there. We got a kicker picked very early there, eighth round. I think I got mine somewhere in the 12th, 13th round, something like that. But he kind of is all over the place on his draft. So next one is Jordan Cameron. I think that's a pretty solid pick. That could be a lot of upside there with all the injuries with the wide receivers, and he's a big target in the end zone too. So that could return some pretty good value. Garcon, he was on my team 2 years ago when he caught all those passes. I love him, but man, that quarterback situation is pretty scarce. And last year he wasn't targeted a whole lot, so that one's a little bit shaky. Duke Johnson, I like him. This is that gamble that he's going to be the guy, the go-to guy in the Browns. So that I like that pick. That's just fine. Then we got Derek Carr. Yeah, I always want to mix those two up. David Carr, from the Giants. So Carr from the Raiders. I think that's a good pick. They're going to be down a lot. He showed a little bit of promise here and there, and then now he has a real target, and arguably, well, definitely a better running game. So it should be an uptick for him this year. Terrence Williams. This will be the last one that I kind of go over. Terrence Williams, I don't know about that. I mean, they'll probably end up passing a little more with the RB, running back committee. So I guess that's all right. This is third receiver, so you're like plug and play for a flex spot. So I kind of went through what I thought where I lacked there is like I shouldn't have gotten Newton so early. And then kind of just talking about what the rest of my draft on this was right pick 9 here. That was J.J. Watt. I never played an IDP player before or league before. So I figured, just on the bend when I have control of it, just to start it off, and then everybody started picking after that. Then I went Trey Mason. It's going to be a starting running back. Doesn't have a great strength of schedule in the beginning of the year, but he could potentially like hold some value. Like week 3 to 8. Depending on when Gurley gets back. Eddie Royal. slot receiver on the Bears. You know, Kevin White's out. Brandon Marshall's gone, so there's a lot of targets there. So that could be some good value there. So Crosby here, I probably picked him up a little bit too early. Um, I could have gone Gates first. There were some good picks like Rivers here. I could have got him that I would have liked better. Definitely David Johnson. He was one that I should have taken before kicker. Stevie Johnson has some potential there as well. And then the Panthers, like I said, they play the Jaguars first week, so that's how I picked them. And Doriel Green Beckham, he's just a physical freak, you know. So I just kind of like took a flyer on him. Don't really have too much to fall back on that one. And then I said Gates, 4-game suspension, I'll take it, with double tight ends. And yeah, that's pretty much from the draft, you guys. If you guys have any questions or, you know, you want to make fun of Joey for his questionable draft, feel free to leave it in the comments. And